morning, everyone. I'm Jenica A. Pulgueras, and I am reporter for today about organization development and culture change. Let's proceed to the first slide, organization development and culture change. Major change programs often require a change to organization culture. This may be expressly stated or implied or could be unintended consequence of a large-scale change program. In this slide says that among the formal change programs that usually lead to culture change, for example of this is Investors and People and the Balance Scorecard. There are attempts to capture a whole way of working with people under the broad umbrella concept of involvement, participation, and the adoption of particular management practices. While there may be expectation that culture will change as a result of the introduction of the kind of quality improvement change above, the HR change consultant has to reflect on whether culture can really be reconstructed in this way. The second slide is Ed Schein, 1985, defined corporate culture as consisting of their levels. Visible, tangible aspects of culture are seen in the tenets of the company logos, vision statement, and the published values. This is a deeper level where culture becomes apparent from the company typically way of acting, prepared management style, and decision-making habits. Described by Johnson, Scholes, and Whittington 2008 as the organization dominant paradigm, at the heart of what they call the culture web. In this slide, this is where there are manifestations of the culture through stories, routine, rituals, power structures, symbols, and control system. The third level is where the values and assumptions drive the preference, the choice, and the way of behaving that are regarded as acceptable. Organization culture is therefore at the deeper level, and they may be a number of cultures in the organization, even counter-cultures adopted by those lower in the hierarchy. There are also occupational culture, for example, in the profession such as medicine and the law, as well as in working groups such as manufacturing plants, maintenance worker in shops. Next slide is making fundamental change means tackling the drivers of culture at the deepest level. Organization development seek to make change that shift the mindset, the beliefs, and implicit understanding of employees. In the pre-revolutionary period, culture change was often an aspect of major plan change. For example, at the British Airways, Marks and Spencer, and in the public sector, local authorities, and in the civil service, with roots in the socio-technical system, view of change, these were often the attempts to restructure and to shift the way of thinking, sometimes to introduce new ways of working, applying new technologies, adapting the social system in the organization to fit the new technical system. These were usually management-led change which sought to carry employees with them rather than be driven from the energy of the bulk of employees, who will continue with their own subcultures and remain active in opposing the new culture. Organization development, in its well-established form, is intended to use social science technique to create and to manage organizational change, which is seen as ongoing process. The characteristic of the OD approach, according to French and Bell, 1978, were the use of work teams and insight into group behavior, which were based on the study of group dynamic as processes, to foster collaborative efforts in order to gain acceptance of change. Less prescriptive version of OD began to become popular in the later part of the 20th century, when there was an action research method deployed. Next is action research was perceived by Kurt Lewin, its originator, as means to facilitate change through action and research. French and Bell, 1978, developed an organization change version which moved through 6 stages. First is preliminary diagnosis, 2. Data gathering from client group, 3. Data feedback to the client group, 4. Exploration of what the data mean with the client group, 5. Action planning, 6. Is implementing action. The main features of action research is the provision of review with the client on an incremental basis so that there are opportunities at each stage to adopt a different approach if necessary and to learn from the process moving back to cycle through the process. These early attempts of OD were data-based change. Data are seen as fact and the action in collecting the data in themselves by help client to rethink their interpretation of the situation in their organization and to discover new solutions. However, more recent OD techniques are based on the notion of multiple socially constructed realities and therefore that there is no one truth about human affairs. Marshall and Grant 2008 argued that there are more recent practices based on their latter sociological theories. The next is the 4 modern practices. First is appreciative inquiry, 2. Large group intervention to seek common ground, 3. Changing mindset to achieve transformational change, 4. Addressing diversity and multicultural realities. This slide means the 4 modern practices are based on the idea of constructing a favorable view of the new desired reality in the organization, and a positive view of change should emerge from a more collaborative, consensual processes of learning how to operate in the changed state. Next is appreciative inquiry and changing mindset. The main idea behind appreciative inquiry is that reality is seen as partly socially constructed. This idea is simple, the notion that we have to share in each society some sense of what the action of individuals and groups mean for social life to proceed. These meanings are based on shared understanding and experience. In appreciative inquiry, those who are involved in change are encouraged to think through their positive experience of change and the opportunities in the company and to concentrate upon positive thinking in order to change their mindsets. The method that can be adopted to do this have been famously summarized as the PORT model. Cooperators 4D model. Discovery, trying to uncover the strength of individuals and the organization. Dreaming, envisioning what might be. Design, planning on what could be. Destiny, sustaining what has been achieved. This slide says that a similar approach seeking to change organizational consciousness has been attempted organization-wide in some cases, where there was emphasis on changing the leadership approach of senior management and the cascading the new approach through the company. Leadership transformation would include short programs on leadership and supporting behaviors, along with coaching and consultancy where the changing include changing diversity and multicultural realities, shifting the way people see groups typically discriminated against in society. Requires a re-educational program so that prejudice is confronted and an understanding of how to address one's own preconception occurs and hence to change one's mindset.